Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. We're now into the question and answer period. Got a couple of questions. The first one is going to be from Willabrew. It's, how would one integrate Widow Mines into a game like this? That's a really good question. I mean, this was played, of course, in the MLG Winter Championships, the semifinals. Flash did win the series 3-1. This is actually the only game he lost. And neither player really used Widow Mines at all in that game. And one of the questions, of course, is how much experience do the players have with them. But I feel like one thing you can do a lot, especially in TVT and maybe as the mech player, is you could use Widow Mines as a scouting / like annoy your opponent tool, because the biomech player almost never has a Raven in their army, like pretty much never. So in the worst case, you have a Widow Mine out there on the map, they scan it, it dies, and you win because the Widow Mine's cheaper than a scan. So you already won. Like it's a no-loss thing to actually have it on the map. The hard part is getting him on the map. We saw how Flash had the Hellion on the map on the right side and the Barracks. But eventually, the Hellion died, the Barracks got pushed away, and he no longer had that great vision on the right side. He had to keep burning scans to keep track of if Innovation was attacking there. And so, anytime he knows that there's no Innovation army right there, sending a Widow Mine and burning it would be a great way to both give him vision, and of course, if the army runs over, he gets a couple free kills as well. But the hard part is, where do you build those Widow Mines in your army? Because they do cost gas. They're not very much gas. I mean, Widow Mine's the price of a Roach, so it's not like it's expensive. I mean, Zerg players max their Roaches very quickly. It's the exact same price. So I think what you would do is you have to change the build-up. You know, as Flash was actually struggling with gas law that game, maybe get a 3rd reactor factory and only 2 tech lab factories. And then you can go a little bit less on the siege tanks. But if you have the Widow Mines out to scout, your siege tanks will be better positioned, theoretically. And then you will never get caught on siege. And so you won't have to replace siege tank losses quite as much. Of course, later in the game, you want to add another like 2-3 tech lab factories. But for your first 3 bases, 3 reactors and 2 tech labs, and then first 4 bases even, then later add up more, I think would be a great way to go. Flash, you put Widow Mines on basically every single location in the map. Put them in the corner expos, put them in your opponent's 4th. Throw them there as like a little net, right? So you open Heavy Hellion to take 3 bases. Then you go ahead and get a couple tanks. And then you get a couple Widow Mines until you can get the Hellbats to help beef, because I feel like Widow Mine tank might be a little bit. I mean, you need the Hellion to tank, but the Widow Mines it'd be the great scouting. Could really be worked in there just for the scouting tools. So of course the next question is going to be from Adam Contini, and he was asking me basically if you're like, if he saw how Flash was able to bounce back and forth the bases and defend them all while being harassed. How can you do that if you're not like Flash? Like, basically what happened there is Flash almost never fought a single battle where his tanks were sieged up, right? I mean, this is why Flash won the Series 3-1. Like, he played mech, but never used siege tanks in a 40-minute game, and it was, or 30-minute game, and it was a 30-minute game, right? Like, he actually played with unsieged tank Hellion just against Marine Marauder. Like, he pretty much almost never fought pre-siege, and he was able to make it work because his macro is off the charts, right? Even other players at the best level have a hard time keeping up with them. His food zone is so high. If you can't do that, what are some ways you can try to play mech against a bio player who's throwing that harass at you from every direction? So I think that goes back to the Widow Mine thing. If you had the Widow Mines out scattered around, especially if your opponent, I mean, Innovation would probably, you can see them on the ground, he would scan and kill him, and then he'd only lose the scan. Other players would just run into him, and they'd lose a lot of units. And then, of course, combine that with sensor towers and just splitting your army up and keeping it more static. Right? Flash is fast enough, he keeps it mobile. If you're not Flash, I would play the mech much more turtly. Watch some Goody games, right? Goody will sit there for 20 minutes on 3 bases and make like a line of missile turrets. Like, Flash builds 2 so he can get more units and he can be more aggressive on the map. No, Goody builds like 8, and then he just has all his tanks in siege mode. He never touches them until he maxes out. So that's a great way if you just make this giant, Major line. Then your opponent can't mess with you, and then you can build up to your dream army to have more fun time playing mech, excuse me. So if you're not Flash, play mech a lot more conservatively. A lot more missile turrets, siege tanks play statically, and then you expand a little bit slower, and just be happy to have a small section of the map, and eventually you'll max out, and that's all you need. So that wraps this section up of Rule of Engagement. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be again tomorrow. Probably another Innovation vs. Flash game. Actually, we might mix it up, do some PvZ, maybe Ghost User vs. Bomber. It'll be some great game from the MLG Winter Championships. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.